Today we are discussing the real reason why you came to Earth and why it matters. So if you ever felt like you have some sort of purpose or some kind of mission, but you can't quite figure out what it is or can't quite put your finger on it, this video is for you. That is what we're talking about today. You need to hear this. We're also talking about what it has to do with why it feels like the old world is ending. And as we transition into a new Earth, this is all coming together and relates to each other. So what we're going to be talking about today is very important. Now, to kick things off, I'm going to take a look at an excerpt from an article on medium.com. And this excerpt on medium.com that we're going to be taking a look at here is from the author Ari Love. So if you enjoy some of the excerpts that I mention here today, go to medium.com, give Ari Love a follow, support, check him out. So this starts off by saying, Ari starts off by saying, I have spent countless hours trying to understand the reason we all volunteered to incarnate to Earth. Was it really to endure all this suffering, to rediscover ourselves? Now, here's the thing, and this is what we're talking about today, because it's in the question, it's discovering the real reason that you came to Earth and why it matters. Now, here it is. Now, there's a couple different things here. Did you choose to consciously come to Earth? So there's multiple things we're gonna be taking a look at. We're gonna be looking at why you are here, what that purpose is, why it is that you incarnated. By the way, I don't like to use the word incarnation. I prefer localization, but more people are familiar with incarnation, so I'm going to be using that mostly today. And also, did you choose to? So Ari, starts off by assuming that we have volunteered to incarnate on Earth. Now, is that true? Did you consciously choose to incarnate on Earth? Well, here's the thing. You chose to incarnate on Earth, but did you do so consciously? Well, when it comes to answering that question, the answer is maybe. No one can tell you for sure if you consciously chose to come to Earth. There's a lot of people out there, and even the person in this article, and I'm not bashing them or anything, but I'm just saying, we have to always be very clear-headed, because as we expand our consciousnesses and our consciousness and step into a new state of consciousness, we have to be rationally grounded, and we have to make sure that we don't lose our grip on what is real and what is not real. And unfortunately, when you start getting into like the New Age community or mysticism or the occult or Eastern religion or esoterica, there are a lot of crazy ideas in there. There's a lot of interesting ideas, but there's also a lot of crazy ideas. Why? Because it's not grounded in reason. It's instead led by intuition. Now, intuition's extremely important. We want to use intuition. Intuition's very important. But we also want to integrate reason to filter and condition what we intuit to make sure that it's not crazy. Because when we are intuitively plugged into the nature of reality, that's a very dreamlike state, a very chaotic state, a very tumultuous state. And what comes in isn't always nice and neat and orderly. We need reason to be able to order it and whatnot, order our intuitions to make sure that what we're talking about is correct. By the way, my voice is a little hoarse. I'm still a little sick, so apologies there. Like and subscribe if you haven't, by the way. Please do that now. But I want to say right off the bat, you chose to come to Earth, but you did not, but no one can tell you for sure if you did so consciously or not. It's possible that you did so consciously. Most of humanity did so unconsciously. Now, what does that mean by choosing to come to Earth unconsciously? Well, think about when you go to sleep and dream. When you go to sleep and dream, you are not lucid. So when you are making choices in your dream, you're just following the dream narrative. You are still choosing, if you're having a dream and someone in the dream offers you apple cake or cherry pie, in the dream, you choose between apple cake and cherry pie. You make that choice. You choose apple cake or you choose cherry pie. You do that in the dream. But that's a very different choice than you may have made if you were lucid. If you were lucid, you might have go, oh, hell, I'm dreaming. Who gives a fuck about cherry cake or apple pie? So in both cases, you're making a choice, but you're doing so at a different level of consciousness, whether you're lucid or not within that dream. So when it comes to after your avatar passes away and you're in the death current and you are localizing, that choice will either be done unconsciously or consciously, but it is still a choice. Now, most people will unconsciously choose to incarnate on Earth simply because it is familiar to them. because they have spent countless incarnations here. So they have developed attachments to this world, and so they do so in that way. However, it is possible that some people consciously choose to do so. And it is possible that we could have a purpose for doing so. But before we get into that whole idea, because if you feel, like you have some sort of purpose or somehow some sort of mission, we're going to be talking about that, absolutely. But before we do, I want to touch on what Ari says here, because Ari was saying that she spent countless hours trying to understand the reason that we volunteer to incarnate on Earth. Is it to endure suffering, to rediscover ourselves? She says, this might be true, but am I missing the main idea? Then out of the blue, one word came to me: experience. So what Ari is going to say is that the purpose for incarnating is to experience. Now, is that true? Let's see a little bit more what she means by experience to see if that is indeed true or if there's something else going on here. So Ari says, let's discuss experience. We broadcast our birthdays for the experience of feeling important. We spend thousands of dollars on weddings to experience that one memorable day. People rob banks for the experience of breaking the law. People spend thousands of dollars on vacations for the experience of luxury. And many go under the knife to alter their bodies because they want to experience beauty. We are obsessed with experience. We incarnate to take in as many experiences as possible during each lifetime. How does it feel to fall in love? How does it feel to lose a loved one? How does it feel to inflict pain on another? How does it feel to be rejected? How does it feel to fail at something? So Ari is arguing here, or putting forward at least, that we incarnate to experience. Now, hold on. Now, this is not, there's going to be a lot more to it than this, especially if you're going to, be feeling like you have a sense of purpose or a mission or something like this. And it's going to tie into why it feels like the old world is ending and the beginning of a new world and things like this. But let's take a look at this idea for a minute. Do we incarnate to experience? Well, yes, we do. But is that all? No, it's not. That is only a half, let's say. That's only a partial reason as to why we incarnate. We incarnate to experience, learn, grow, understand, acquire knowledge, etc. There is so much more than just simply experiencing. Now, experiencing is a fantastic part of life. It's a huge component to it. And we have to remember that it's fantastic to feel that feeling of falling in love and all the different things that we experience. That's what makes life worth living. That's what makes existence fun. And that is a big, important part of why we come here. But it's important to understand that there is the aspect of localizing about experience, and then there's also evolution and knowledge as well. And we have to understand that both are important, because there are some people in the New Age community or whatever that think life is just about experiencing, that's it. We're just here to experience, have a good time, and that's all they focus on. Well, that's not true. They're missing an entire portion, entire half of what life is about. Now, there are other people who think that life is simply about acquiring knowledge, and who gives a fuck about experience, and that, oh, well, that's just a waste of time. What you have to do is just work on knowledge, work on evolution, and some people don't give a fuck about enjoying life or having fun or having meaningful experiences or any of that. They think that incarnating is all about and only about knowledge and evolution. Well, that's not true. Now, why it's about both? And how can we know that it's about both? Because remember, we have to understand that there's a lot of people who just put forward ideas, but you have to ask why. Like, how do we know what life is about? How do we know what reality is about? Well, when we look at the understanding of what we know existence to be, and we know existence to be a mind that has diversified itself and is now exploring itself in its diversity. So basically, we all existed as a single mind. And this single mind, which philosophically is known as a universal, particularized itself. or basically diversified itself, or fractured itself into a multiplicity of viewpoints. So you can think of it like this. God fractured itself into a multiplicity of viewpoints and wiped its own memory to forget that it's God. Why did it do this? Well, so that it can experience itself in its diversity. So in that aspect, life is about experience because we are a mind that purposefully fractured itself to have an experience of itself in all its various transformations. But knowledge, evolution, learning, and understanding is also a huge part of that. Why? Because the more that we know, learn, grow, and understand, the better experiences that we can cultivate together. For example, think about all the diverse experiences that a human being can have. A human being can have like all the different things that she mentioned, weddings and love and falling in love and building a life with someone and creating art and creating music. Now think about a dog. A dog can have experiences too, but a dog's experiences are much more limited than a human being's. A human being can have a much more diverse and rich type of experience, both positively and negatively. And our evolution, knowledge, growth, and understanding is what has allowed us to have that diversification of experience. So life is not just about experience, and it's not just about knowledge. It's a synthesis of both. Reality is a system that is exploring itself, a living mind that is exploring itself and experiencing itself through its various transformations. And through knowledge, understanding, learning, and growth, we will be able to have much greater, grander, and richer and diverse experiences. I mean, the experiences that we're having right now as human beings are going to pale in comparison to when we reach higher levels of being and higher levels of consciousness, when we'll be able to have things that just make what we're doing right now as humans look extremely primitive. So those people who think that life is just purely about experience are missing on the great riches that knowledge, learning, growth, and understanding will bring us. And those who think that life is just about knowledge and learning and growth are going to miss out on enjoying life, which is half the reason we're here, is to have that experience together. So I wanted to just point that out real quick, that it's important to remember that there are both of these aspects to reality. Now, another thing that Ari says here, it says that most of us are from planets unlike Earth. Now, is that possible? Have you ever felt like you're a stranger here? Have you ever felt like you're not from Earth? In addition to feeling like you have some sort of purpose or have some sort of mission, have you also felt like you're not from Earth? Is that possible? Now, I'm going to answer that in a moment, because in the chat, Eric Clem asked, is it possible to be somewhat aware that you're from another type of civilization that is not from this planet? So I'll be answering that question in just a second. But first, I want to read another excerpt here. And Ari says, you might be thinking, how does she know all this? The truth is that I incarnated during this lifetime on a special assignment. It isn't only me. There are thousands of us here on these missions. We re-entered the simulation because, well, shit got out of hand. Many of us are here to help awaken humanity and save planet Earth. I won't spend too much on this topic today, but this simulation is at risk of being destroyed. So we had a few choices: allow Earth's destruction by humanity, destroy the entire simulation, or create a new Earth. Instead of eradicating the earthly experience, we opted to save it. We're doing an upgrade from Planet Earth 3.0 to Planet Earth 5.0. Okay, so there's a couple things that we need to talk about here. So Ari's making a lot of claims. First of all, how does Ari know all this? Ari says she knows all this because she incarnated during this lifetime on a special assignment. So that doesn't really answer how she knows all this. I guess she's just claiming that she has this knowledge innately because she's on a spiritual mission or something. That doesn't really answer the question. But she says it isn't only me. There are thousands of here on these missions. We entered here because We're here to help awaken humanity and save the planet. Okay, let's talk about this. Did you consciously come here on a mission? Are you here to wake up humanity? Are you here to save the planet? And does this answer the question of that purpose or meaning that you feel like you have? Is it possible that you did this? Is it possible that we have consciously chosen to incarnate here to help humanity move forward? Yes, that is very possible. However, it's possible that that is not the case. We don't know for sure. And anyone that tells you that we can know for sure is bullshitting you. We can't know that for sure. However, it's possible. And I think a lot of us have that intuition that we did. So it is very possible. And a lot of us do have that intuition that we did. And the important thing to understand here, is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you consciously chose here to do that or not. What matters is that you are here and that you consciously choose to do that now. Because whether we had some special assignment or volunteered in some, pre-life state, that ultimately doesn't matter. What matters is that we are beings that have reached a certain level of consciousness now, and that because we have reached that level of consciousness, we have the innate desire to help humanity move forward. Because when we start to reach higher levels of consciousness, we automatically want to build a better world. It comes with the territory. That's what we do. Because when we start to realize what we are, where we are, and why we are here, we realize that we are all in this together. And my success is your success because we're all interconnected. Remember, we are a mind that has diversified itself into a multiplicity, and we are experiencing ourselves in that eternal state of both a diversity and a unity, where we experience our diversification and then return to a unity and then diversify again and go through this process. We've been going through this process forever, and we're in this process right now. So when you begin to reach a higher state of consciousness, you're going to start to yearn to help move humanity forward. You're going to yearn because this is just what follows when one begins to reach a higher level of consciousness. So the important thing is to remember, it's possible that you chose to incarnate here. It is. But does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. And it's important not to get distracted and obsessed by all this stuff, and be careful that you don't start going off the rails and crazy train and getting to all these new age ideas about having soul contracts and all this kind of stuff. Because that stuff can be interesting to think about, and it's possible, but you can't know that for sure. What you can know for sure is that you have reached a higher level of consciousness, and that we together have this purpose to move humanity and the earth forward, because that is what we do. That is why we are here. That is what we are meant to do, because we are systems of evolving energy, and this particular world is extremely chaotic and fractured, and we are moving it to a new phase of evolution. That's why it feels like the old world is ending, because more and more people are finally beginning to start to reach that new level of consciousness. All the old ways of doing things are failing us. All the old religions no longer serve us. Old scientific methods have failed to explain existence and reality. And the systems that we work under as far as capitalism are degrading and eating away at humanity. And those of us who are reaching a new level of consciousness are realizing the old world has failed, and it's up to us to establish a new beginning, a new earth, a new consciousness, a new humanity. We are the second coming of Jesus Christ. What do I mean by that? I mean, there's no savior coming to save us. We're here to save ourselves. We're not going to wait around for Jesus to save us. We are the Christ consciousness, if you want to call it that. I don't really like talking in terms of that. But we are the fallen angels here to give that forbidden fruit to humanity to help them become divine. In other words, we are our own saviors. We are our own gods. We are divine. We're all in this together. So there's no waiting around for a savior, and it doesn't matter if you consciously chose this or not. Maybe you did. Maybe I did. Maybe everyone listening to this did. But what matters is that we can consciously choose to make it happen right now. So be careful that you don't become too obsessed with these New Age ideas, because ultimately they can be a distraction, but they can be fun to think about. I mean, I have intuitions. I'm sure many of you have intuitions. And that leads me to Eric's question when Eric asked, is it possible? Is it possible to be somewhat aware that you're from another type of civilization that is not from this planet? Yeah, that's very possible. You could be from a civilization that's not from this planet, and you could have chosen to incarnate or localize on Earth to help move humanity forward on Earth. You may have done that. Now, can we know for sure? No, you can't. No one can tell you that for sure. No one can tell you that for sure. But you may have a very strong intuition that that's the case, and it may be possible. I would like to say that whether you did or not, though, many of us have intuitions that were not from Earth, because ultimately none of us are from the physical domain. Ultimately, we are all aliens here, regardless, because we did not originate on Earth. We are not human beings. We are divine beings, divine minds that are having an earthly experience at the moment, that are currently dawning on an avatar. So many of us will have that intuition. Like I said, when you start to have and reach a higher level of consciousness, not only are you going to have intuitions that you have a purpose and a meaning, but you're going to have that intuition that you're not from here either. Because you do have a purpose, you do have a meaning, and you aren't from here. You are a divine being of frequency, an eternal being, an infinite being, and you are here on Earth to learn, grow, experience, transform, evolve, and help the rest of the world do that as well. So the important thing to understand is that you have the power to actualize that purpose in yourself right now. If you're looking for a purpose and you're looking for a meaning, what's going to fulfill you is helping the world move forward. And that can take the shape in so many different ways. You can do that through art. You can do that through music. You can do that through politics. You can do that through social activism. You can do that through anything that you are passionate about, anything that you feel. You can do that through helping others who are in need. There are so many different ways. But the ultimate way, the thing that we have to do to transform this world, is usher in a new level of consciousness. Because the more that you help others reach a new level of consciousness, well, that's going to start off a chain reaction. Because when you reach a new level of consciousness, guess what? Well, you automatically get that sense of, oh, I have a purpose, I have a meaning. And what fulfills that purpose and meaning? Well, it's to create a better world. So as you help other people reach that level of consciousness as well, well, what are they going to do? They're going to want to help move the world forward too. And then we're going to start that chain reaction where people all over the world are going to start reaching this new level of consciousness, are going to want to help the world change. Look how fast ideas spread today. So fast, incredibly fast, ridiculously fast. And it's only going to get faster. Look, you can have billions of views overnight on a TikTok video. And as the years go by, I mean, think about how quick information, it's going to spread even faster than that. We can have a radical transformation of consciousness in a very short amount of time. But in order to do that, you have to actually start helping the world move forward by helping humanity raise its consciousness. And you can find, like I said, you can find many different ways to do that. Through art, through music, through writing, through books, through poetry, through creating videos, through, like I said, political movements, through social activism, so many different ways that you can do that. So find the way that you want to do it. And if you aren't ready for that, then the next best thing is to work on your consciousness. If you still feel a little, pretty confused and not ready yet, then work on leveling up your consciousness and your knowledge and your understanding, because we're all in this together. And as you learn, grow, and understand what you are, where you are, and why you are here, you're going to become more capable of eventually helping the world. So if you're not quite ready to do that yet, to go out there and help others, that's fine. Help yourself first. Work on your knowledge, work on your understanding, work on your growth. Know thyself. And that is how together we can change the world and usher in a new era. And that's, if you're looking for a purpose, if you're looking for a meaning, that's the reason you feel it. And that's the reason why that we're all here. We're all here to experience, learn, grow, and understand together. And right now the world is in a really shitty state and we're not able to do that optimally. So we want to create a better world and a better earth. And we can establish the kingdom of heaven right here, right now. It's a state of mind. It's a state of being, inside and outside. It's not somewhere we go to when we die. It's not in the sky. It's right here, right now. We just have to make it happen. So as always, my friends, check out all my other videos. I have a lot. Like and subscribe. And hey, we're having a secret video after this called How to Know Everything as we explore absolute consciousness and spiritual enlightenment. Consider supporting on Patreon. If you feel like you've ever gotten something from my work, you'll get access to all those secret videos. And it helps out a lot. It's how I'm able to do my work at all. So I appreciate it very much. I wanted to give a shout out to everyone who does support on Patreon. You can also support by hitting the join button on YouTube right below this video. Shout out to Philanthropist, Zach, Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Michael, Angela, Maria, Top of the World, Ethan, Joel, It's Fashida, and everyone else. And I do have to update this list. I've just been a little busy lately. Thank you for bearing with me, my friends.